In this video, you're going to learn how to use a preposition, mit, which is generally used to say with, as in with a person or a room with a chair, but can also be used to mean by a transport. So today we're actually going to focus on using it with by in the examples, but the same rules will apply whether you're saying with someone, with something, or by a transport. You already know that the three words for the in German, our three definite articles, are der, die, and das. I've colour-coded them here in a very, I suppose, politically incorrect way, with der, the masculine, being blue, die, the feminine, being red, and das, the neutral, being green. I said that we would use examples to do with transport. So let's just add nouns to this. So the easiest one for you to remember probably for der is der Bus. Quite simple and straightforward, very similar to English, but remember the U is an O sound, not an A. For die, let's go with die Fähre, which is a ferry. So die Fähre. And das Flugzeug, the plane. If you can remember how the pattern works with these three words, because you know that Bus is der, Fähre is die, ending in an E, more than likely would be, and Flugzeug is das. If you can remember these three, then you'll remember how the pattern works with all the transports and every other time you encounter a der, die, or das word. So now let's have a look at what happens when we use them with mit. Firstly, with der Bus, if we want to say that we're going by bus, we say mit dem. The der becomes a dem instead. Mit dem Bus. The ferry, the D word, becomes mit der. And the das word also becomes a dem. So what we end up with is mit dem Bus, mit der Fähre, and mit dem Flugzeug. As I said before, if you can remember that the der and the das with mit do the same thing, then you're over halfway to remembering for every time you use them. Later on, as you're learning German, you'll learn that this change is called the dative case. Now, we haven't looked at cases yet in our classes, but if you can remember that mit takes the dative, then you'll learn a whole heap of other things that do the same thing as mit. If you can remember mit dem Bus, mit der Fähre, mit dem Flugzeug, when you learn others that also take the dative, even if it's for totally different words, it'll follow this same pattern. Let's have a look at them now in sentences. So remembering that our basic German sentence structure has subject, then verb is always second. Time, I'm not going to put an object in here. Manner is how we're going or how we're doing something. And that's where mit becomes very useful, because we can say we're doing something with a friend or we're going by train. And place will be at the end. So in the English example here, I'm going to Munich by train. First thing we need to remember is that I'm going. For that in German, we would just use the present tense. We don't use an is-ing construction, so we'll just say I go. Second thing is that here we have subject, verb. We don't have a time in this sentence. In English, I've put the place next, and then how I go, my manner, I've put last. And in German, we need to remember we're going to have to swap those two around. So let's have a look at how it works. I is ich. We're going, but we're not carrying that train, we're travelling. So ich fahre. Now we have to stop and think about how a train is going to work, because that's our manner. And it was a der word. It was der Zug. And when I put mit, can you think back to what that previous slide talked about mit doing with der? It becomes dem. Zug, and then we'll say nach München for to Munich. Remember, some German cities have a German name different to the English name. Let's have a look at another. So for this sentence, I've added in a time. We is the subject, going is the verb, to the city is a place, by bus is how I'm getting there, that's my manner, and I've put in English here, on Wednesday my time at the end, because I can in English. Remember, in German we need to not have it at the end. We could put it at the front, but we won't look at what that does now. We'll just focus in on using SVT-MP. We, wir. Again, we're not carrying that bus, so we have to think of travelling rather than going. Wir fahren. Now we need our time. Mittwoch. Apologies for the messy writing on my screen. Mittwoch. Now we're at the bus thing. Now the word for bus was der Bus. So we have to think, what did der change to with mit? And it becomes dem Bus. And we're going to the city. And in German we actually go into the city. In die Stadt. Not just to the city. If you went to the city, you'd be standing on the outskirts. Remember, German can be quite literal at times. So remember, then, to cap off, whenever we use mit, der and das both change to dem, and die changes to der after mit. Good luck with this part of the course.